Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business News Afternoon Report for Tuesday, the 26th of November, 2024. I'm Sean Aylmer. Every afternoon, we've got the 5 stories that happened today that you need to know about. Story number 1, global markets reacted quickly to a Donald Trump post this morning saying he will place 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada and up tariffs on China by 10% in his first 24 hours in office. He says it's in response to the number of illegal immigrants crossing into the US and the surge in the use of illegal drugs, particularly fentanyl. Investors reacted quickly. The US dollar surged, pushing the Aussie dollar back to the low 64-cent level. That's the weakest in 4 years. It did bounce back later in the day, back towards 65 US cents. Copper and base metals prices dropped. Now they tend to rise and fall in line with expected future economic growth. Bond yields jumped, slapping on tariffs, pushes up inflation. That pushes up bond yields. The Canadian dollar hit its lowest level since 2020. The Mexican peso tumbled. Even Bitcoin went backwards. It's now down 6% in the past 3 sessions, so it's still trading at more than $94,000 a unit. Story number 2, the news out of the US hit the local share market. All the talk of tariffs encouraged some investors to take profits from stocks that have run hard. The banks were the victims of that today. The Commonwealth Bank fell 3.5%. ANZ, Westpac and National Australia Bank were all down around 1.5%. By the close, the S&P ASX 200 was down 0.7% to 8,359 points. The energy stocks were lower. Woodside and Santos fell close to 4%, though that was as much to do with reports of a potential 60-day ceasefire in the Middle East. Other companies that are involved in the US manufacturing sector and have operations in that country did well. BlueScope Steel, for example, jumped 6%. Building Products Group James Hardie, which has a major operation in the US, jumped more than 2%. Ansell and Amcor both rose. Story number 3, Deloitte Access Economics has forecast a blowout in the budget deficit this financial year on the back of a softer economic outlook. Now, Deloitte Access is probably the most reputable budget forecaster in the country. It says there'll be an underlying cash balance in the 2024-25 financial year of $33.5 billion. That's $5.2 billion worse than the previous estimate from the government. Net debt will come in around 20% of GDP, which is in line with expectations. The last 2 budgets were in surplus. That's because we had inflation and commodity prices were running. Now we don't have those tailwinds, and so as a result, things don't look anywhere near as rosy. The good news is that the labour market remains strong. Story number 4, US miner Peabody Energy and Indonesia's Buma, BUMA, will pay close to $5 billion for the Queensland coal mines of Anglo American. Peabody will have control of 4 coking coal mines, while Buma will get 1. Coking coal is used for steel making. Thermal coal is the other type that's used for power generation. Peabody hasn't a great track record in Australia. 13 years ago, it bought Queensland miner Macarthur Coal for nearly $5 billion. Ultimately, it went into Chapter 11 bankruptcy on the back of that. Anglo, which in May knocked back a $75 billion bid from BHP, has spent the past 6 months offloading coal assets, including stakes in Lake Vermont and Jellinbah coal mines in Queensland. Coincidentally, the 6-month time limit imposed under UK law, which has prevented BHP from making another bid for Anglo, expires on Friday. And story number 5, car dealers are being forced to sell luxury electric vehicles at a loss as demand at the top end succumbs to changing consumer tastes and competition from Chinese EVs. Dealerships are reporting too many $70,000 plus EVs, including from manufacturers Jaguar, Mercedes-Benz and BMW, according to a report in the Fin Review. A report by investment bank Moeller says the local market is mismatched with too much prestige inventory at a time when the cost of living crunch is biting. Could get worse next year as well. Under the government's new vehicle efficiency standards legislation, car manufacturers are incentivised to increase their volumes of low emissions vehicles in this country. Now, when the UK introduced legislation like that, not only did new EVs lose value, but used EVs lost value as well. Another big factor in Australia is the success of Chinese manufacturer BYD. Its growth is far stronger than Tesla in this country, and the charging infrastructure in Australia still remains too problematic for many buyers. That's it for the afternoon report for Tuesday, the 26th of November, 2024. Michael Thompson and I will be back tomorrow morning with the Wednesday edition of Fear and Greed Business News. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your evening.